Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And welcome back to Read or We're All Gonna Die. Today, Eric and I are not reviewing books, but we are reviewing something that we each read, although we each read a different thing.
I mean, we also read comic books.
We did. Those are also things that we read, but these are things that were in print with no pictures.
There were no pictures.
That's true, but things
there were pictures in my head because I used my imagination.
That were intended to eventually be translated to a medium that would have moving pictures, but they don't in their current form. Today, Eric and I are each going to talk about an unmade film script. Eric's going to talk about a scriptment. He got to be lazier and not do as much work.
It's only about 45 pages.
Yeah, and I had to read something that was movie length, so like, 100 and something pages.
Somewhere between 90 and 120, I'd imagine.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So Eric is going to talk about an unmade Spider-Man script, and I'm going to talk about an unmade Watchmen script. The Watchmen script was requested by Chewbacca's lover. Now, just every time I'm like, the word is requested, Eric. Chewbacca's lover asked me to talk about Sam Hamm's Watchmen script, so I'm going to do that. But before
was the James Cameron one of the possible scripts that he listed?
It wasn't.
Okay, because if it was, I was like, that's two for.
I don't think so. I'd have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, though.
Okay.
Yeah. But Eric is going to talk about the James Cameron Spider-Man scriptment, which was a thing that he didn't think existed. And then one of our subscribers, I can't remember who, told us that, no, it is indeed a thing. Here's where it is. And tell us about that, Eric.
So it gets brought up on either our Jeopardy or
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
We had a night where we played Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune on PS4.
And so I was like, what do you think about James Cameron's Spider-Man script? And I was like, that doesn't exist.
People weren't there for silly video games.
Yeah.
They wanted to talk about superhero things.
I guess someone kept bringing up like unmade scripts. Like, what do you think about this? But I was like, that doesn't exist. I was wrong. It does exist. The scriptment exists. I'm not sure there was ever
script.
I'm not sure there ever was a full script.
Okay, sure.
But I had heard the scriptment referred to as he wrote a real terrible scriptment just to get funding. Where there's Dr. Octopus and he keeps referring to himself as Spider-Man. Hates that Spider-Man calls himself Spider-Man. It's weird. I knew that one existed. This one I was under the impression is like the Batman.
Well, wasn't there like some really adult kind of weird violent stuff in that?
Some that's in this.
Okay.
They're swearing and stuff. So I knew some of the things about the script. I'd read things about people who had read the script, but last time I looked, the script itself was not online.
Okay.
Reading it, boy. So the things I knew going into this, because I thought this was just going to be like a weird, crazy, like fever dream thing. Because the things I knew about this were, Spider-Man wakes up, Peter Parker wakes up with like webbing all over him, which is just not even a metaphor for what it's a metaphor for. Like Spider-Man wakes up with like webbing all over him. He webs up Mary Jane and they have sex. The bad guys are Sandman, Electro.
That was the thing I feel like I had heard about.
Yeah.
At one time.
The bad guys are Sandman and Electro, but they're not named Sandman or Electro. And then there was another thing. There was another major thing. So I thought this was just like a...
Did we put this in a proper time context for people?
This is like 93, 94, I think.
Like right after Terminator 2?
It's right after Terminator 2. And this eventually doesn't get made because the company finds out it doesn't actually have the rights to Spider-Man. Because Marvel had spread the rights to their characters so far and wide. This company thought it had the rights, found out it didn't.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine like paying someone to write a script and then realizing, oh, we can't even make this?
So, what a scriptment is, which I believe James Cameron invented. I don't think this is a commonly used thing.
It's not a thing I've heard of outside of this.
So what this is basically a beat-by-beat breakdown of what the movie is going to be, plot point by plot point, with some dialogue. So, this is about, for anyone who doesn't know, a page of screenplay is supposed to be about a minute of screen time.
Right.
This is about 45 pages. Most of it isn't dialogue. So it's just kind of like this would happen, and this would happen, and this would happen. It's a lot of that. And it also is giving you things that you wouldn't get in a script, which is intent. This is what it's supposed to be saying. This is what it's supposed to be about. So I can't review this as a piece, exactly. If he was able to execute everything he says he was able to execute, it would have been amazing. It would have been genre-changing, not just for superhero movies. This is the science fiction film version of Spider-Man. This is the mature, sophisticated take on Spider-Man. that is not the comics. It is James Cameron's Spider-Man, but is so in tune with the ideas of the character, like the thematic ideas of the character, specifically the early Ditko Stan Lee stuff. It doesn't... I'd always thought I was going to read this, and it would be crazy, and be like, that's not even a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
It's
the
not.
title alone.
James Cameron gets Spider-Man. And I also thought it was going to be like this, like, insanely dark film. It's not super jokey, but it's because there's not dialogue. I get the impression that Spider-Man would be making jokes. It still, if he carried this out, it would still, to this day, be one of the most interesting and sophisticated superhero movies
you think
ever
so?
made. Yes.
Wow.
Some of it's a little been there, done that, and some of it...
At this point.
Yes. It would have blown people's minds if it came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's so smart. It's so about everything. So, the first major thing
But I also wonder how many scripts we've had like that we never got to read that were watered down when we saw them in their final form, right? Yes,
and this is very clearly the beginning of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. There are things in this that they didn't accidentally both write at. We have been building off of this script by the time we get to Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which is unfortunate.
You said organic webbing is one of those.
Organic webbing, which is genius. So the big thing that this movie does is it is not like messing around with the puberty metaphor. You can read that into Sam Raimi Spider-Man. This movie is about that. One of the big things is he has organic webbing, and he's really ashamed of it, and is afraid people are going to be grossed out by it. And so he builds fake web shooters over top of it that conceal that it's coming from his body. So no one's grossed out and thinks it's coming from him. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason that movie doesn't, that Sam Raimi Spider-Man has organic webbing. And they came up with justifications. It's because it starts in the script and no one thought to revise it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So...
Because by the time you get there, I don't know why we don't just make it mechanical, especially because I've always complained that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man doesn't do enough science stuff.
And
he should just
they say it's a realism thing, but people don't accept it. In that universe, in that tone, no, people would have accepted it. No, I
still don't understand that. I still hear people say that, and it just seems like a talking point before it's anything, right? Because, okay, so you can't buy that, but you're cool with mechanical... octopus arms? I don't...
Yeah. Well, maybe it's... Well, I would say maybe it's the budget of a kid, but buy the costume.
I don't know how they did that with $100 somehow, apparently.
They deal with that.
Do they?
So he has a makeshift suit, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's using.
Yeah.
This does not do the wrestling thing. It actually goes to the other thing that happens in the first early Stan Lee Spider-Man comics.
He's on TV, right?
He's on TV. He starts as like a street performer and like gets kind of picked up, like works his way up kind of the industry. He never becomes like a movie star or anything, but his big break is like on like a TV show at like 3 a.m. And like he just starts kind of becoming known. And he and like everyone he's a novelty act. And then where was I going with this? I was going somewhere with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man and the costume. Okay, yeah, so he makes a costume. Much later in the film, his costume gets ripped and destroyed, and he can't make another one.
Okay.
So Spider-Man's become so popular at this point, he just goes to like a costume shop, and they're like, and that one looks better than the one he actually made himself
because he's popular enough.
Yeah,
somebody made one.
That the costumes that you can buy are of higher quality than what he made. That's fun.
No, that's fun.
Such a fun explanation.
I almost would buy it more now than back then, because we make better costumes now.
Yeah. No, and that's true. So, the first kind of act of this film is... What's interesting is, Uncle Ben doesn't die kind of until the halfway point. There are certain things that we do that, again, are taken directly in the Raimi movie, but, like, perverted and changed. So we have... He goes to a science lab. There are 12 flies, super genetically created flies. One of them's missing. It gets caught by a spider. The spider eats it. and then bites Peter, which you and I talked through about. I was like, that's a really weird way to get there. Except it means no one can replicate the experiment.
Yeah.
In the Raimi film, why everyone could just go and get bit by one of those spiders. This creates a situation you can't immediately replicate or even know exactly how it happened.
Yeah, and at least in Amazing, it's all behind locked doors.
Yeah. Yeah, there's things here where I'm like, okay, you're thinking about this.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with this section of the film is Aunt May and Uncle Ben are barely there. When Uncle Ben dies, it means nothing. Now, part of that's because there's no dialogue.
Sure.
But it feels like they're in like 3 scenes. But what's
so
really...
Even if all that was added in, you can't imagine that they get more than a minute and a half screen time.
Maybe like 5.
Yeah.
I also imagine this would be a longer film. And it's kind of the... Like... Terminator 2 is not a 3-act movie. It's like a 4 or 5-act movie.
Yeah, sure.
This is more like that. Where like... There's a whole act of the film before Uncle Ben dies. Like, Uncle Ben dying is kind of like the end of the second act if this is like a 4 or 5-act thing.
Yeah.
Because we have all of this... We have all the discovery and all of that, and it takes a good long time with that. Mm-hmm. And it really drives home that this is a puberty metaphor. This is about what we all go through and the power that he now has and doesn't know how to deal with and things like that. Uncle Ben dies, which makes a little bit more sense because he's just outside of the place that the robber left, which we talked about, which you and I talked about, is like, where even is that in Sam Raimi? Like,
yeah.
It's immediately outside the building. So the big change, or one of the big changes that James Cameron makes is Peter webs up the mugger, gives him to the police, who don't know who he is. They don't know that this guy killed Ben Parker, and because they're not chasing him, he just gives him to the police, and that guy's like, this crazy guy came out of nowhere and like beat me up. And then the cops are suspicious of Spider-Man. And that begins people being suspicious of Spider-Man, which is such a natural way to begin cops and Spider-Man not getting along. We also have, because this is a very mature and sophisticated film, he also stops cops from beating people up that shouldn't be being beaten up.
Yeah.
That also puts the cops not on his side. So then we get... Also, Mary Jane's here. That's all kind of typical. Where she's the popular girl, she's dating Flash, not Thompson, different last name, don't know why, but she's dating Flash.
They're doing a lot of that in the 90s, I don't know.
And they get put together on a lab assignment, which at the very least she chooses him. She needs to she wants to graduate with at least a B average. She's doing poorly in this class. She teams up with the smart kid for the final assignment, hoping she'll get a really good grade, and it will bring her average up to a B.
Sure.
We also are very explicit about her being the party girl thing being the party girl popular girl thing being a mask. She has a very abusive home life, and we also know that Flash hits her. There's a point where Flash like slaps her across the face, and then later that night Peter shows up as Spider-Man and starts slapping him. He's like, "How do you like it? How does this make you feel?"
Wow.
And then he gets really angry and just starts wrecking Flash's car, which is like his prized possession. He has this really expensive car, and he totals the car. And there's this real it's the puberty thing. Like, I have all of these emotions, and like it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So the rest of the Mary Jane stuff is kind of along those lines. Like, we check back in, we have scenes where like they're bonding and they're getting to know each other and things like that. So there's this bad guy that shows up whose name is Strand, who is fascinating. And even in some of the things he said that he gets to where I'm like, that's really interesting. I'm like, no wait, that is literally the motivation behind most supervillains. But you made it sound really interesting. So
is he just a guy?
He's secretly in charge of everything. Like, not everything, like...
But I mean, does he have powers, or is he just a guy?
He has electro powers.
Oh, okay.
And we get a flashback with him where he's kind of just a guy, and he's running away from the cops. He runs into this field that's it's so weird. There's this like postmodern art exhibit that's these metal things that are supposed to like catch lightning, and then lightning strikes, and he gets shocked, and he becomes not Electro. And then there's also a Sandman guy, which we find out was just like a thug who gets caught in a thing and becomes the Sandman, and he's kind of the heavy. So Strand's kind of philosophy is basically they're better than everyone else and should take from everyone else. There's no reason they shouldn't. They're better. What's interesting is one how he phrases it, which is the world shouldn't be catering to the lowest common denominator; it should be catering to the highest. We are the pinnacle. Everything in the world is for us, which seems kind of derivative. And but there's this interesting idea that and kind of mutant the idea that they are the next step in human evolution because, with the X-Men, it's just and all of these random people just have superpowers. Evolution is taking a leap forward. This is his view of it is like.
Is it a destiny thing?
It's not a destiny thing, as much as it's what. I can't think the right term, but it's not that they were chosen, but something is happening. It's very important that they all come from accidents. It's like natural selection.
Okay.
Nature is selecting them to be the next thing. It is important.
Because usually where you go with that is, oh, I'm a freak.
Yes. Yeah, and he's seeking out and trying to find people like him, which is also very important. Again, kind of a game changer in 1992 or whatever, 1993. He's already a supervillain. 2 supervillains. We get their backstory, but we don't have to worry about creating screen time and things like that.
Yeah.
So he.
But again, chances are it wouldn't have been made that way.
Yeah. Also, his big how he made all his money is the Superman 3 plot. He takes off the percentages of transactions and things. He's like Electro in that he has electric powers.
That made for entertaining film watching. It really did.
He isn't like Electro in that he is like the James Cameron version of Electro. It's taken to the nth degree. He can hold his hand over phone lines and hear through them and things like that. He has control over energy.
Yeah.
He can turn TVs on like this without remote control, which is so amazing. He can't touch people. There's a weird sex thing with his girlfriend who
but when you start messing with stoplights and stuff, that can be really powerful.
That's true. She has to wear a rubber bodysuit so he can even touch her because he's electric.
Wow.
And it seems like the way it's presented in scene is that this happens quite a bit, which is he can't control himself. He's I want to touch a woman. I don't want to just touch this rubber bodysuit. And he touches her, and she dies. And he shocks her back to life.
That immediately gives you a parallel with Spider-Man.
Yeah. So Peter kind of flat out turns him down. He's like, hey, I want you to think about this and come and join me.
You gotta have that trope. That's gotta be in there.
Yeah, but it's done better.
Yeah. Because
he's already collecting people that have powers. Spider-Man is just another.
Yeah.
It's not.
And he's not thinking about the ideologies. He's you're so different from me. I know you'll never join me. He thinks he can seduce him or whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's kind of caught off guard that Peter doesn't immediately just be yes, I see what you're saying. You're right. I am better than all these people. And it's also important that he never sees his face. He stays Spider-Man the whole time. Mary Jane does get kidnapped later, but it's not because they know who Peter Parker is. There's kind of a scene in the Raimi film where he saves her. He saves her twice, and they're oh well he
must care about this.
Yeah. So we'll just
Lois Lane
thing. We'll just grab her. So he then uses his control over all these different corporations and things to get J. Jonah Jameson to just spin the media against Spider-Man. He's trying to show him how awful the world is and turn everyone against him on every level of his life so that he will come back to him. Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
He wants to show him that he has a point, that people are inherently bad and fearful and they won't trust him. And then so there's this really interesting sex scene with Mary Jane where he gets her as Spider-Man, and they have this conversation about spiders, which is a whole thing because their science project is about spiders, so they're both learning about spiders. And he's circling her, and he does tie her up, but it's specifically stated that this is a thing that this kind of spider does to the female, when they're going to mate, that's really dangerous because it's entirely like symbolic, and the female can break out of those bonds at any moment because the females are stronger in spider species.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there has to be trust, and he asks her to close her eyes, and he takes off his mask because they kiss through the mask. I'm really interested to know how James Cameron would visualize the costume.
Yeah.
She doesn't know who he is. She keeps her eyes closed the entire time.
Interesting.
And given that this is James Cameron, I assume it's all about hands, because James Cameron's love scenes are about hands. It's a thing. I imagine it wouldn't actually be explicit. This film could be a really hard PG-13 or an R. There is some swearing in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would make it to the final film. So we get so she gets kidnapped, and we go to the thing, and Strand like lays out like this whole philosophy. It's fascinating. That in the Raimi film gets boiled down to Green Goblin's things about like all people care about. People don't care about heroes. They just care about see them fall, die trying. Strand has a whole thing about this. I actually took a picture of the script because I want to read one small section of his dialogue that I just thought was insanely prescient. Because it's like a page of dialogue. Just like, this is this guy's philosophy. And give me 1 second to pull this up. But I was like, wow, you could have written this yesterday. It's a myth that people hate, or that people need heroes. People hate heroes. Heroes make them feel bad by creating examples they can never live up to. As long as the media can show day after day that the people they respect and admire are just as twisted inside as they are, they're reassured. They can sleep at night. They can face their puffy faces in the mirror in the morning. We're not talking about that stuff in superhero movies until much later.
Yeah.
And like it's boiled down to a line in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Like we just take that entire philosophy and just like we'll talk about it in like one line.
That doesn't have anything to do with that character at all.
Yeah, no, and this is all what this character's about.
That's really interesting.
No, it's really good. If everything's
it's sort of like with all the stuff that we really liked about the '89 script, you know, it's kind of sad to see how watered down it got.
And there's also a social component where Spider-Man starts realizing that he can't save the world punching people, and so there's a point where he goes and he busts up like a drug den, and there's a bag of money, and he's like, "Do I take this? I can do a lot of good with this. I can help my Aunt May. I can buy these things. You know, this, that, and that."
And that's like a classic Stan Lee scenario.
Yeah. So we're in a poor neighborhood, in the slums. He just empties it out onto the street.
Oh.
It takes the '89 thing and flips it as positive.
That's interesting.
So the end of this film, Strand has mountains of money. I think we're told it's exactly $250 million.
Oh, wow.
Spreads out across the city. Mm-hmm. Hundreds across the city. He's like, this probably didn't help, but it might have. It might have helped someone.
Yeah.
It's thinking about social issues in the context of superhero story.
Yeah.
We're not doing that for another, like, 10, 15 years? Like...
Well, we kind of forget that, like, townspeople are real people. We think that even though we know they're placeholders, mm-hmm. we think of like the entire population of a city as the people that you see in them. Those are the only people that move anything. Yeah. You know, those are the movers.
Yeah. It is very 90s. It is quite dark. It feels probably not intentionally, because I doubt James Cameron went back and read anything modern. But it's not out of step with what we're doing.
Does it read a little McFarlane?
It does read a little McFarlane, Michelini, like that kind of era. There's some of that, but that's probably just sensibilities of the time.
Yeah, sure.
It's intentional influence, other than that Mary Jane's the girl. But, it would have changed the world if it got made.
Yeah.
It is very much T2 James Cameron making a Spider-Man movie. Again, assuming that everything he says he wanted to do, he would have executed effectively. Because it's not a script. It is a script. He is telling me what he wants me to take from it.
Yeah.
Whether he effectively conveyed that or not.
It's not like you can analyze it, because it tells you what it is.
Yeah, it tells me exactly what it wants me to think about. But if he'd done it well, if it had been T2 good, and I think it could have been T2 good, it would have been incredible. Also, Sandman's there, I think because he loves morphing technology, because with the T-1000,
yeah,
I'm fascinated to know what that would have looked like. Because here's the thing, I think we get better special effects faster if James Cameron doesn't stop making movies when he does.
I think you're right. Yeah.
If he'd tried to make Sandman,
he would have kept coming up with techniques.
It would have made it would have looked amazing. I'm convinced
Sandman
would have looked
great. Look good.
Yep. And
he would have sooner replaced the character probably.
I think he would. I think whatever he did with the Spider-Man costume would have been the same thing. I think there are certain things that he could have done that could have changed the film industry if he made this movie. Not just superheroes, but film. I really liked it, and I'm kind of sad I live in a world where that movie didn't get made because it could have been amazing. But yeah.
Of course, then there's all the things you wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah. I just want to be able to view, like, the other dimension where that got made. Like, what does superhero films look like if this movie did get made? I wouldn't have been allowed to watch it until I was like 13, but maybe 10. Because that's the thing. Everyone talks. That's the other thing. People talk about
how hardcore it really was.
Yeah. People talk about how violent and crazy the script is. It's not a script. It's a scriptment. There is one use of the F word. And it's...
Like I said, all I ever heard about was that sex scene, and you're right, you could shoot that in such a way.
Yeah, James Cameron doesn't shoot sexy sex scenes. He shoots romantic. He shoots love scenes.
Yeah.
Which is, for some reason, all about hands interlocking. That's his thing. But yeah, no, it's... I think this could have been a hard PG-13. I think James Cameron would have made it R, but I think it could have been a hard PG-13. Just based on Terminator 2. Like, at that point, he's never, well, True Lies is his next movie, that's PG-13.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have made a PG-13 Spider-Man. I think people blow out of proportions the weirdness of this script and aren't seeing, like, the forest for the trees. I'm like, nah, this would have been incredible. Like, especially playing its time and place, like, this would have been a big deal.
Yeah.
How's the Watchmen script?
Well, not that good. It's certainly not a thing that I'm wishing we had seen made. So I won't go as long about this.
I'm sorry. I really liked it, and I really want to talk about it.
No, that's cool. What's interesting about the Watchmen script is that it's Sam Hamm. It's 1989. It reads like, and the date on it is 89. So I don't know what month it was written in. I don't know if that happens immediately because of the success of Batman. I assume probably so. Because I have a hard time imagining that without the success of that, anybody even thinks to try to do Watchmen that early. I don't think Watchmen in 89, 90 makes a lot of sense.
Unless Sam Hamm's like kind of pushing it, and then 89 comes out, and they're like, okay, you can do your other superhero movie.
My guess is, and I was talking to Chewbacca's lover about this, who requested this. He was like, I can't, and I'm with him on this, where it was like, I can't imagine this happening any other way but Batman is successful and they go to the guy who wrote Batman. That's kind of what it reads like. And it reads, to me, very much like an assignment where it's like, how do we make this into a compact enough story that you can do in a couple of hours, and how do we make it a thing that you can present to the mainstream? But it is very rated R. It's not at all watered down in that way. It's a rough thing. It's sexually explicit. It's everything Watchmen is visually and tonally. But it misses some of the philosophy and nuance and thematic stuff in that book, mostly by changing the ending and by leaving out the legacy stuff. So what Sam Hamm's Watchmen does is it tries to, because obviously unfilmable graphic novel, it's a really hard thing to bring to script, what everybody called unfilmable graphic novel. So
scripts like this are probably why.
Yeah, sure. So his answer to how do you put that on screen without it being 6 hours long, because Snyder didn't worry about that. He just made a movie that was as long as it needed to be, and then they put out a real gutted version of it in the theater, and then they made a director's cut, which was less gutted, and then they did an ultimate cut, which was almost everything that should have been there, unless you don't like the ending that he changed, which I really like. And plus Black Freighter, which you can skip because it's Black Freighter,
just like in the book,
and I don't care. But it's cool that he was trying to be that authentic, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's weird about Sam Hamm's script is it also has a lot of authenticity in everything in between the opening scene that takes place in the golden age of superheroes, which is like 1976. And the very end of the movie, which is yet another, but I guess the first, in writing this anyway, attempt at changing the ending and getting rid of the squid. Which also kind of changes, in some ways, I think, kind of the point of the whole thing, and makes it, like almost too, like, happy and positive for Watchmen. It's a different thing. So I'll get into that in a second. So, everything in between that is by and large Watchmen without the actual golden age of superheroes that you had in the book. And I had a hard time not skimming it because of things I was just used to with Watchmen, and a lot of lifted dialogue from Alan Moore. So if you came in 10 minutes into the movie and you left like half an hour before the movie was over, you'd think it was just straight up Watchmen. Except you'd wonder where some flashbacks were. And I'm not saying it's bad if it's not like exactly the book.
It also doesn't sound like it was adapted.
It feels like it what's that now?
It also doesn't sound like it was adapted. Like if it's just the work, but we changed these couple of bits.
Yeah, then we
didn't try to make it fit.
You didn't try to make it a movie, yeah. And Snyder's we did, even though it's lifted so much. So one of the things that's really interesting about it is the stuff that is left in that we kind of skimped around or didn't do much of in the actual Watchmen movie. Like the knot tops are there, and like they're. I mean, we don't do a ton with that, but I just thought it was interesting that was there. But then we left out things like Hollis Mason. It's really weird in my brain because I'm so used to what I'm to the book and the movie and what I'm used to. The movie opens with the Watchmen, which they call themselves that. That's the name of the team. Over and over again. I don't like that. And they are trying to stop a terrorist group from blowing up. Or from killing some hostages. I forget what exactly they're at the Statue of Liberty to do, but there's a terrorist group, and they're trying to stop this terrorist group, and there's hostages, and they end up, and it's very violent, and I think comedian straight up blows a guy's brains out, and I mean it's real rated R, and it's real like these are superheroes who will kill people.
Is it still
without really
history?
A moment's thought? Yeah, well, and that's very important because we get away from the alternate history at the end with time travel where we come into our world, which is...
There's like Nixon president and things like that?
Really, really strange. Yeah,
all of Vietnam.
No, and all of that is the same. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it's kind of Watchmen. And,
okay.
And one of the things I meant to say, I'm jumping around, that weirdly we keep and is earlier in this movie than it is in the ultimate cut of the movie we got, is the whole Laurie getting kidnapped by the government thing. That's in there, and it's really early. It's like 15-20 minutes into the movie.
Interesting.
But anyway, so there's this really obvious symbolic thing where, because we're saying that, superheroes aren't really heroes, where we blow up the Statue of Liberty's head in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Or 10 minutes, whatever, the teaser. And it is a teaser, because they say that the credits are right after this. So we do a cold open. And it's, which I don't think we did a whole lot of at that point. But, because, like, Batman doesn't have cold open.
This does.
Does it?
Yeah.
I thought it opened straight with the credits. I should know this.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it opened with the family and Batman dropping down, and then we did the thing. But maybe you're right.
No. That's all after that. If memory serves.
Okay, you might be right.
I'm pretty sure it opened straight up with it. No. I'm right about that. But anyway, so
James Bond movies open like this. Lethal Weapon opens
sure,
like this.
Yeah. But I just mean like right at this period. I don't remember a whole lot of cold opens with these kinds of movies, but
yeah.
Maybe there's things I'm not thinking of. Anyway, whatever. It's not important. So. Because that whole thing ends, it's a big fiasco, and the Watchmen are all of the modern Watchmen characters in the 80s that you know with the comedian and with Rorschach and not Sally Jupiter but what's her face, Silk Spectre. And then because Sally Jupiter's not in this story at all, and Night Owl. And then Captain Metropolis, or the other, or is it Captain Metropolis, or is it another guy? There's another superhero that they took from the old Golden Age, put in this, and then we never hear from again, and I don't know what happened to him. I might have skimmed over it on accident. Do not know what happens to that guy after the opening. But anyway, so this is the incident that leads to the government act that makes it illegal for people to be superheroes apart from the government, and we don't have Dr. Manhattan yet in '76. He comes later, and
interesting.
Yeah, or at least I don't think they. No, maybe they do have him already. They don't talk about him until later. I don't remember. But he's not dating Lori at that point. I'm pretty sure that's later. But he's not with them. In that opening, if memory serves, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not. So anyway, it's weird, and then but it seems like you have that one incident, and it doesn't feel like anything was leading up to this. It's just you have that one incident, and now no more superheroes. It's really oversimplified. And then Watchmen happens, and just pretty much most of the things that you know about Watchmen, except for the Golden Age, is all in there. And then, except we don't do well. Okay, there's a couple major things that are missing. The things that are missing are more interesting than the things that are there, kind of. So, one of the things that is missing is any actual detective work to find out that Ozymandias is the bad guy. Because when you get to the end, or when you get to kind of the beginning of the third act, anyway, we go to the Arctic. Just because we think we need Ozymandias's help in dealing with I mean, there are like World War III is about to start, so we go to Ozymandias. That's basically what happens, and they don't even know that he's the bad guy till they get there, and he's doing menacing things, and so it's like, oh, he's the bad guy. Yeah, they just stumble upon the fact that he's the bad guy. They don't do any research. They don't find out. They just go there and he's.
Hey, can you help out? Oh no!
Yeah, it turns out he's trying this time travel thing to get rid of Dr. Manhattan because that's his plan in this. But the other thing that's left out is Rorschach's journal. Okay. We don't have it at all because. You don't need it with this ending, because we're going to wipe away everything that happens in the movie. We basically turn time back like Superman, and it's not that interesting. So without Ozymandias's original plan in either form, book or movie, you don't need Rorschach's journal because there's nothing to tell the public about, because you've already changed history. So. In the original version, if you'll recall, with Watchmen, the idea is that Ozymandias is trying to create a manufactured peace by killing a whole bunch of people and then making us think that we have to be good boys and girls so that we are not attacked again, and we like come together to deal with this big threat. Is kind of each of those different versions, right? So the movie version is Dr. Manhattan is going to kill us more if we do bad things, and then the other version is there's this alien threat we have to come together to combat. And this is if Ozymandias can punch a hole through time, which is harder in this world than it is in a lot of fictitious realities, and I don't know if he needs nuclear weapons to make that happen. I'm a little bit fuzzy on what exactly it is he does to punch a hole through time. But all of his machinations are to make that happen. And he apparently... And once again, he's like getting rid of the comedian and stuff because I guess the comedian found out what he was doing. Like I've had with Watchmen before, I don't totally know why he's getting rid of some of the superheroes he's getting rid of until I look back and look at all of it. Like, it's not real clear.
That's a problem I have with the movie, at least in the versions I've seen, because I haven't seen the Ultimate Cut, but we don't have a reason for the comedian to die.
Yeah.
In the book, it's just he flies over and sees that they're building the squid. Like, there's a reason for him to get killed.
Yeah, Malik explains it, kind of. And Malik's in the script, too, and doesn't seem to really need to be there.
Interesting.
But anyway, so...
Hey, it still could have been Frewer.
It could have still been Frewer, yeah. Yep. He would have just been playing a little bit older. But you'd be younger playing older. But anyway, so you although I thought he was a little bit old a little bit old to play that role, even when he played it. So, but I don't know if I'm right about that, because no, probably not.
Was he supposed to be a Golden Age villain, or is he from their age?
I thought he was a Golden Age villain, so I guess so if I'm right about that, it would make sense that he'd be older. But whatever. Anyway, sorry, it's late. So, you get. I wasn't going to talk about this very long, but now I'm just trying to explain the thing. So Ozymandias is trying to, like I said, kill Dr. Manhattan in the past, and just make it to where he's never formed. So he's going to kill John in the chamber. Where he would become Ozymandias, or where he would be, where he would become Dr. Manhattan. And then the idea is we wouldn't get so close to the brink of World War III because we wouldn't have this nuclear deterrent that eventually leaves, and then there's nothing to stop nuclear war from happening. What I don't understand about it, and there's no talk about like so many minutes to midnight or any of that. The Doomsday Clock I don't think is even there, but what's weird about it is we kind of treat it like we're doing okay in the real world, but this is this really exaggerated, heightened version of it, and if only we were in our reality, it's not so bad. But the problem is, at this time period, we're constantly still fearing nuclear devastation. And it reads like a script that's written after the wall is dropped. But it wouldn't have been. Or it would have been real close.
Interesting. Well, and especially, I don't know, like these kinds of movies, including Sam Hamm's original script for 89, it's very strange that, like, the 80s are, like, the better... Like, wouldn't it, like, isn't this better? Like,
yeah, I mean,
these are not a great time.
No, I mean, relative to the Watchmen alternate present, sure.
Well, relevant to Mad Max right now is pretty peachy.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't really know what we're getting at the end. When we change reality, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we ultimately replace the Watchmen reality with our reality, and say like it's rosier, and maybe the idea is just supposed to be like see, it's a cautionary tale. See, we're not there yet. It's not so bad. We didn't wind up with that horrible version of the 80s, so there's still a chance. Maybe
that's your reality and substitute my own.
Maybe that's supposed to be the idea, but it kind of just reads like an O. Henry like Twilight Zone kind of ending, where because. Okay, I'll get there. Let me go back to Dr. Manhattan for a minute, because Dr. Manhattan, like he does in the book, leaves Earth because he finds out that he gave people cancer. And of course, just like in the book, it wasn't really him. That was all part of the machinations of Ozymandias, because he needs Dr. Manhattan to leave the Earth in this so that he can't stop him from killing him in the past. That's why he needs to get him to leave Earth.
Sure. That makes as much sense as anything, I guess.
When Laurie goes up to Mars to try to convince him to help mankind, in this version, it can't be what it is in the book, because there is no relationship with her mother and the comedian, because we don't know anything about her mother. There's nothing about her, because that Golden Age stuff's not there. So it's not the miracle of life, the miracle of her exact being happening like it is in the book that makes him want to save Earth. He ends up it's late and I'm trying to remember what exactly it is because it's weird. But he dang it, I can't remember it.
It's really late, guys.
Yeah, we should have done this one earlier. Oh boy, I will remember it. But he oh no, I know what it is. It's that it's weird. She doesn't really convince him of anything. It's just he cures her. She gets cancer. She's one of the people that also gets cancer.
Okay.
That's one of the things they changed, because we don't have Sally Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she has cancer, so he cures her cancer and then just goes back to Earth. I don't really know what that convinced him of, but he just goes back to Earth, right? And then he ends up stopping Ozymandias and but deciding, kind of like he does in the book, that but Ozymandias is right, and I have to keep what he's doing because it will save lives in the long run. And it's kind of the ends justifies the means thing, except they don't cause any horrible devastation like they do in the book, except for the people who got cancer. What he does is he goes back in time himself, and he like I can't remember if he merges himself with John or if he just saves John. I can't remember what exactly he does, but it's weird. And then then the future changes, and I could not figure out how while I was reading it, but our other I think they walk through like this time doorway that's opened up by this, and our heroes, none of whom die. Rorschach is alive in this at the end.
Wow.
They go through the door, and well, I mean, think about it. There'd be no reason to get rid of him because there's no truth that he can tell anyone that would make.
You don't understand. We're not the reality that we're supposed to be. Things changed.
Yeah, and he's like, no compromise. Kill me. I'm not going to go to this better, present. So anyway, so they walk through this door, and then they come into our world, which I don't know how you visualize in such a way where we know for sure it's supposed to be this meta thing. That seemed like the hardest thing to communicate to me.
You would have to make, like, the Watchmen world really stylized, right?
Well, and that's what it is supposed to be, and he makes a big deal out of how stylized it's supposed to be. And I guess maybe you'd cut to, like, he doesn't say this, I don't think, but maybe you would, like, I don't know, cut to newspapers that make it clear who's president over Nixon from before and things like that. I don't know. But anyway, when I think there's a Watchmen comic at the end, and I don't like that, because that's weird. I don't know how that would even exist. Because...
Well, it's our reality.
Right, but I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be, like, actually our reality, because he says it's our reality, but I think the idea is supposed to be that without John, you would have our reality.
And that's also weird, because that means that the superior version of that story is a fictional version, because this is what really happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not okay. Not even think about that. If that's what it is, it reads, even though he says our world, it reads more like we just changed events so that things don't work out the way they did, but then you still had superheroes in that world in the 70s, and whether or not John was there wouldn't have affected people putting on costumes. I don't think. So that's weird. But like I said, the idea seems to just be like I guess things are better off, and so we don't have to, turn our world into the Watchmen world. I'm glad it didn't get made. Which is, at the end of the day, like, it's a way inferior version, and it seems to kind of miss the point.
I think that's the script that Alan Moore read and says, like, I mean, that's probably the best you can do as a movie.
Yeah.
It still shouldn't be made.
Yeah, which is so weird because, I mean, I guess just on principle he didn't want it made at all, but, like, if he was nice enough to even say that, I think he would have been a lot more okay with the script they made. But he didn't want it made at all, so it wouldn't matter. But anyway, that was that script. It's really odd. That was a super strange choice. But I really think it was just him going, we can't do a giant squid, that's stupid.
Or expensive.
Yeah, and also, again...
We want you to adapt this, but the ending, we can't afford that. Do something different.
The thing that happens with Rorschach and the dog is exactly what it is in the book as opposed to the movie.
Wow! That's impressive. I wouldn't immediately expect they
left that the same. Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff is just straight up exactly the same. The sex scene with Laurie and Night Owl is still there. But what's funny is he doesn't have money anymore. He doesn't have a secret lair. He like the owl ship is like in a barn or something.
Okay.
Because he doesn't have Hollis.
Right.
So you have all these weird things you have to change.
Yeah,
it's really strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, there's a couple of unmade film scripts for you.
Yeah.
And we took a long time on this, but it was just explaining all that stuff. I guess takes a while.
It's hard to review something that people don't have easy access to or aren't necessarily immediately inclined to read.
Yeah, that's my... I don't know, that's the immediate thing that I started doing. I was like, oh yeah, I can't talk about this like anybody's read it.
Yeah, me too. I was like, and then this happens, and then
that's my immediate
really
instinct. I'm like, oh yeah, we have to completely set everything up because no one will have seen, will have looked at this, yeah. But anyway, we've been doing this a long time. I guess it's just inherent where I'm like, oh yeah, nobody's looked at this. Well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. We're going to move on now to the Captain's Log and Letters pages. So if you're...
We made it.
Yeah, we sure did.
We did it.
So if you're watching the playlist, just keep the video going, and we will be down to our last couple segments. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Bye, guys.